Who is the most delusional person you've known? My cousin has insisted to my family that I get exorcised because I'm gay and autistic. She thinks that only the devil himself can corrupt someone to this extent. The only problems with her theory are that I am neither gay nor autistic, and she's the one touched by Satan. Guy at my college thought he was God's gift to women just because he worked out daily. He looked more like an albino Dwayne Johnson with curly hair. It was like Casper took steroids and started hitting on anything that moved. Met a guy in the psych ward with psychosis who believed he was a prophet. Really nice guy. I have a quote written by him. Madness is not pure error, it is nature's dissatisfaction with genius. My grandmother was a nurse in a psych ward years ago, and she encountered a patient who was convinced he was the second coming of Jesus. He even talked like Jesus. She said, "If I hadn't known he was nuts, I might have believed him." This is how the real second coming of Jesus failed. Hey man, super intelligent people go crazy too. There's actually a really interesting book by Kay Jameson, herself a psychiatrist with bipolar disorder, that talks about how many poets had what we diagnose today as bipolar disorder, and how it influenced them to be creative geniuses. I work in a small-town radio station. I've seen lots of rookies fresh out of broadcast school let the tiny amount of fame they get from being on a small-town radio station go to their head. This one guy came into work one day, madder than hell that small-town radio famous wasn't famous enough to get him out of a speeding ticket. The pastor of a church who believed that he was, his own words, God's gift to preaching, even though attendance was dropping precipitously. When told that his sermons were too long and meandering, and that the people wanted more prayer to God instead, he replied, "People don't come to church for God, they come to hear what I have to say." Guess who's going to hell for pride? My father. This dude fell for the Nigerian prince spam, twice. He believes every single conspiracy theory he hears. He thinks God cured him of autism, which vaccines gave him. He is by far the dumbest person I know or have ever known. But he thinks he's a genius. A few conspiracy theories he believes. The US used holograms of demons to fight in Vietnam, and that's why we lost, because it made God mad. There's a secret cabal working towards a one-world government, and they regularly have people killed. All the scientists in the world conspire to fake evidence of evolution to lead people away from Christ. Colleges are set up by the one-world government cabal to brainwash people into sinning. He's an anti-vaxxer. Twice. How the fuck? I don't even know, honestly. I warned him both times, repeatedly. The really funny thing is that when they ran off with his money, he was convinced something must have happened to them, not that they ripped him off. Both times. He's my boyfriend's best friend in the whole world, and he's a fucking nutter. Sometimes it's funny to hear him explain his theories, but other times it's just sad and frustrating. I care about him, but often worry that he may be mentally ill. A few examples. The Earth is flat, and that NASA and all other scientists are in on the secret and want to keep it from the public. They don't want us to know, because it somehow directly proves God's existence, and they don't want that. The government uses airplanes to spray us all with metal particles that make people have autism. Also related, he doesn't believe that regular clouds are made out of water vapor. In a religious debate, how can you prove that Christianity is the religion of truth if every religion believes it is the truth? I told him it isn't solid evidence to use the Bible, because most religions have their own sacred scriptures that refute the Bible. If everyone believes their book, using yours won't make a difference. He told me I was being hormonal, and that's why I didn't see eye to eye with him. He recently informed me that God taught him that watering your grass will make it green. I told him that was just standard lawn maintenance and general knowledge, but argued that only those who know the Lord take the time to water their lawns. He doesn't understand what door-to-door salesmen are. One was at his house asking his grandfather, the homeowner, for some info to complete an order he was making. He wanted his name, phone number, and exact address. My friend thought this was incredibly suspicious that he just showed up, even though the guy had on a uniform and a marked vehicle, so he called the cops, who were very confused when they arrived. He firmly believes that fat people are fat because of cake. Not trans fats, not excess sugar, not hidden calories and misleading portion sizes. Just cake. If you pry further, he'll explain that there's nowhere you can go where you can't buy some form of cake. It's delicious and horrible for you. That's why people are so fat. Cake is too yummy and too easy to get. When I tried to tell him that in a way, he's right. But it's more of an issue of junk food rather than just cake, he said. You wouldn't know 'cause you've never been fat. I have, so I would know. We'll end this with my boyfriend's favorite. He thinks that the birds outside his window are watching him. Keep in mind, his house is 2 floors and he is on the 2nd floor, which is right at eye level with the tree in their front yard, which has a huge bird feeder. And yet he thinks that for whatever reason these birds are obsessed with him and watch him 24/7. My aunt, my mom's sister. She constantly stirs drama with other people and then calls you out for being mean to her. What a fact lady. For example, one time I came outside and I see her pull up in her car. She starts chit-chatting to my mom. They're talking about her haircut. I tell my mom we needed to go, and she drove away shortly after. Totally fine. I get a call from another relative a week later that she's angry with me because the day she came over I rolled my eyes at her, and she reads lips. She knows I said something about her. This didn't happen. She then continues to post on social media how karma is gonna get me, while simultaneously commenting on all of my stuff, saying how cute my daughter is. Delusion. My little sister. Me and my eldest sister were raised by an alcoholic mother who left us with random people so she could get drunk. When I was about 6, my mom sobered up and had my little sister. The girl is delusional and has adopted the idea that she went through what me and my older sister went through. She recalls memories that never happened. She swears my mom beat her, never happened. She makes up stories. Like she was a mortician, she traveled around the world, she dated such and had tons of money. It's so weird. She spends every waking moment on Facebook and posts every single thing that goes on in her life. She has a felony. She beat her baby daddy until they broke up, and now both of those psychos have a really shitty custody fight going on. I could go on and on. My ex-boyfriend plays the victim to his friends and family. Yet I have spoken to 2 of his exes, and we've all called the cops on him at some point. He obsesses and stalks and harasses. He tried to break into my app once after we broke up to apologize to me, and tried to convince my roommate I was unstable and making rash choices. We've been broken up 7 months now. I have a new boyfriend, and he still sends me emails saying I'm being unreasonable. This reminds me of my uncle. 3 out of 4 of his wives have literally fled from him in the dead of night. One of them took their daughter and sought asylum in Germany, where her mother was a citizen. He's a criminal and a sociopath, but neither he nor my grandparents see it. Some years ago, my grandfather had to get triple bypass surgery. There were some complications. He was in the hospital for months and no one knew if he was ever going to make it out again. When he finally did, he discovered that the same uncle had stole over $1 million from him over the months he was in hospice. Did my grandfather finally see him for what he was? Nope. He blamed my uncle's most recent ex-wife, calling her the criminal mastermind. She was the stupidest woman I've ever met, but at least she was smart enough to get away from him. A friend of mine tried to argue with me that him coming from a wealthy family made it harder for him to find a job. His reasoning was biased, not enough experience. No one said you couldn't work when you were younger, you just didn't have to? I kinda feel for him. My parents always told me to focus on having hobbies and studying while I was in school. They would have been furious if I'd gotten a job in high school. A few years into college, a professor told me, "You're a moron if you think you don't need job experience before you graduate." That snapped me out of the haze and I got a job to at least have experience on my resume. If I'd taken my parents' advice and never worked until I had my bachelor's, I'd probably have a much worse job now. I actually understand his argument. I am not wealthy, have worked my whole life. If your society and family don't support the idea of working at a young age, there is a large social cost you have to pay to get a job. This is not the case for poor people. My schizophrenic uncle. He ran away from home, US, in his teens to Turkey, converted to Islam, came home a few years later. Believed he was the son of God and robbed a bank so he could give the money to the homeless in the city we live in. He was institutionalized for many years, was released one day with no notice to our family, and died shortly thereafter of an accident caused by his mental illness. My friend's ex went off her bipolar meds because she was convinced love was the cure to her bipolar disorder. I feel better now, so that means I don't need my meds anymore. Bipolar isn't a bacterial infection, you don't take meds for a while and then you're cured of it. Weirdly, they broke up after about the millionth violent mood swing, and now she spends her days getting fired from every single job and doing hallucinogenics. This dude who used to live near me. There is a laundry list of stories, but two gems are. When he took those fake billion-dollar bills you get at Halloween from church groups to Walmart, filled 8 shopping carts with random expensive stuff, mostly electronics, and tried to buy them with the money. Or when, after the cops being called for him shooting our much younger neighbor with an airsoft gun, he grabbed a samurai sword and charged at the cops. Spoiler alert, he got tossed. He later told us if they shot at him he would cut the bullets in half like Ryan Reynolds did in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Who is the most delusional person you've known? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.